CaitlinCarsonShow.com.
You're listening to When Wall Street Meets Main Street, the talk show making the most out of your finances. When Wall Street Meets Main Street features advice from local experts on building wealth, saving, and investing. And now your hosts of When Wall Street Meets Main Street.
Good morning, K-Talk. This is your host, Alan Blood, at When Wall Street Meets Main Street. Happy to be here on Friday morning with you and talking about
mine as we're moving forward and their numbers. So with that, we price it accordingly is what I try to make sure that they have that grasp and willing to, if they're not, they got to make those pricing adjustments as we go forward. It may be every 30 days or so.
Boy, and that hurts. If you can just come in up front, you got to figure for every 30 days you've got the house in the market, you're paying the mortgage and the expenses for a home that you no longer want to own.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to buy, you're not able to move forward with that, so that might be costing you money on that side as well.
That's a huge issue, and I know some people struggle maybe getting with an agent. It's going to cost me some extra money and stuff like that. The reality is that the longer the home sits on the market, each payment you make is a loss.
One thing I've seen in this market for people, and I've got a lot of clients who are very for sale by owner mentality, and that's okay, who like the idea, and they've sold homes before in the past, and they were able to put up a sign and run an ad. I could probably create more than one job for $1 million.
Yeah.
In fact, I would give myself a new job for half of that.
Sounds like a plan.
I'd be okay, and there'd be a new job they could put on the roster.
There you go. There you go.
You could have a job. I could have a job. You know, we could have several listeners with jobs, and we'd spend less money.
Hey, let's sign up for this.
Let's do it. I like that plan. One of the things he did say that I thought was interesting is he mentioned, with, again, no details, but mentioned that he would like to have a couple of refinance programs expanded. So right now there's 2 programs available for people who got loans before 2009 to refinance their loan, even though their credit or their income or their appraised value might not be what it was when they bought the home. Still has the possibility for some people of refinancing, but there's been a lot of people that have not been able to take advantage of that because they had mortgage insurance, because they had a second mortgage that was higher than the value, because they had, any of a variety of things, because they were unfortunate enough to have the loan serviced by someone who didn't participate in the program. I mean, on and on and on and on. And so it's been a program, though it's been helpful to many, has not really helped as many as it could have. That was the one bright spot I saw, was that it might open up the door potentially for some more people to take advantage of where rates are, that are locked into rates at 5.5 or 6, which is not a bad rate.
No.
But when rates are at 4 and 4.25, 6% starts to sound a little bit painful.
It does. If I were a homeowner in that situation, I would like to know the details of what he's talking about on this, because we get people all the time asking us, what can we do?
What are options?
Yeah. But if there's no clarity in the plan, unfortunately, to me, it's just another talk, and people won't buy into it. I think skepticism is very high in our
running
area
pretty
market.
Rampantly high.
Yeah.
No kidding. Well, and that'll be left up, unfortunately, I think, to the bureaucrats, and they've done a great job so far. And so Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will get an opportunity to come forward with whatever their implementation will be, and I expect we'll see something in the next week or two that'll be kind of the beginning of that conversation. So stay tuned. And if you're looking at refinancing, if you've got a home where you are under equity, in other words, you owe more than the home is worth, or you don't have as much equity as you did before, which is a lot of people, and you've tried to refinance but you weren't successful, or you did refinance but you'd like to get your rate down to 4.25 instead of 5.25, there might be an opportunity opening up here in the next, several weeks.
Yeah, I think that's a very good thing if that can happen for us, because then I think it introduces people's thoughts into the market again. How can I get involved in buying, maybe refinancing, and look at real estate as a whole?
Yeah, well, and I mean, in this economy, if, a 1% drop in an average loan in Utah is going to save people, about $120, $140 a month, $140 a month is a big deal.
It's huge. As you know, on a lender's side, I get people trying to get with me. For instance, we talked about on our appraisal issues for the county, what can I do on taxes? People are looking for ways to save money. Because they're looking more ways to save it, because the opportunity to make it isn't there like it used to be.
Yeah. Well, and the idea behind opening up that refinance option would be, the stated purpose is to open up some job opportunity. The concept being that if there's less money being spent on mortgage interest, there might be more money to be spent on other things, and hopefully some of those other things would be some job creation, which would be nice.
Definitely. I think that's we're about a spending economy.
No kidding. So we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Anybody who wants to know more, certainly stay tuned, and we'll be talking about it every Friday on this show. And if you've got questions between listening to the show and you'd like to hear more, please call me directly at my office. You can reach me anytime with questions you have at 801-298-5887, and would certainly love to hear from you. Jeff, just so that those who are listening as we're talking today, one of the things that you had mentioned that you would do for anybody that called in and wanted it was to prepare a CMA. Tell us what a CMA is.
That's a great question, Alan. CMA is a competitive market analysis, and basically what we do, when I do it, I'm going to look at individuals' homes. If they're sending me their information, I'm going to ask them for a list of data that I need in order to compile one of those. And when they send that to me, I'll be glad to go over in detail of their homes, find some comparables that sold in the last 90 to 120 days, no more than that, and then look at some market trends for them as well. Are you on the down slope, or are you coming back in your area? And I'll send that off to you for free.
That's a great service. I mean, if you've got a home and in the lending world, I ask people the question all the time when they talk to me, what's the value of your home? No one has any idea.
That's true. A lot of people jump on like Zillow.
Oh, what a terrible service in Utah, isn't that?
It's a disservice.
It is, because the information is faulty. It doesn't give you any real data at all.
Absolutely, and people really look at that as having some substance to it because it's on the internet.
Yeah, because the internet's always true.
No, well, it's not.
I know, it's shocking.
Yeah.
There might be something online that's not accurate.
Absolutely, and then they ask people what they sold their homes for,
Yeah.
and you know that we're kind of a little bit maybe not fully truthful when we talk about that with our friends.
Maybe kind of push. Yeah, I sold it for 190. Really, it was 145. But I felt like 190 to me.
Absolutely, and then they often don't include the closing costs, any concessions, and things like that, which make a difference.
Yeah, and so getting that CMA that you're going to do, that will give people a really good idea of what the value of the home is right now. So whether you're looking to refinance or you're thinking maybe it's time to consider selling, or you want to know what your options are, that would be a real valuable thing to get. So if you'd like to get that from Jeff, call into the station, and Stephanie will get your name, and Jeff will get back in touch with you. Call in at 801-254-5855, 801-254-5855. Or if you'd just like to join in our conversation and share your thoughts on what's going on in real estate, we'd love to hear from you. One other thing that happened this week that was an interesting conversation, Ben Bernanke got up and spoke again, and he's always entertaining to listen to. The comment that jumped out to me from his conversation, his speech, was that he was surprised that household spending was staying so tame, that people were still being so cautious with their money, that was surprising to him.
That's a shock. I can't believe that somebody would think like that.
I know, and really, when I heard that, I thought, and Jeff, you said the same thing, what a total disconnect between what's happening there and what's happening in the mindset of the average American, what's going on Main Street.
Yeah, it just shows that they really don't have the pulse of America, that they're really disconnected from what's really going on, and it's kind of scary at the same time.
It really is. I'm not surprised that people aren't spending money. There's no money to spend.
I know, Alan, that I talk with buyers and sellers, and I look at my own personal affairs, and I critique everything that I do. Does this make sense?
Absolutely, especially in this economy and in this time, it just makes sense to do. Well, and that kind of brings us into, Jeff, what you and I had talked about before the show, and we want to discuss here today. What really are the things that someone can do? If you're owning a home right now, or you're looking to maybe sell, or you're thinking of buying, the further you can stretch your dollar, the better. What's the advice that you would give to people who are thinking right now of buying a home? How can they make their dollar stretch the best from the perspective of a real estate agent?
That's a great question. You have to look at a lot of different factors, I think. First, I would recommend get with a mortgage lender. Find out where you're at. Do you know a mortgage lender? No, I'm still looking. If you can think of somebody, Alan, let me know.
Yeah, I know a guy that you can call if you. So yeah, get it, and that's good advice. I agree. You got to start out with that. If you don't know what you're qualified for and how you can maximize what you're going to be paying on a monthly basis, well, I should say minimize what you're paying so you can maximize your dollar. You're giving yourself a bad start.
Absolutely, and because I get calls all the time, and people say, "Come and show me this home, Jeff. I want to go through it." I'm asking them, "Are you with a lender? Let's look at what you can do on this home, because if it's out of their price range, it doesn't really make any sense for me, for them, or for the homeowner to waste their time." So what we're going to do is nail that down. Once we have that, find out what they're looking for. I find a lot of people...
Let me interrupt you. One thing that people always express as a concern to me is, well, I don't want to tell my real estate agent how much I can afford. I don't want to tell him that I can afford a $190,000 house instead of, because what I want to buy is a $160,000 house. And if I tell them I can afford a $190,000 house, aren't they just going to push me into that larger home so they can make more money?
That's a great question. I think a lot of it has to do with trust. I feel that my relationship with my clients, if we have a good trust relationship, they disclose more as we get going or right up front. So I think, or maybe even need to draw that out. Listen, if you have that price range, keep it in mind. I know as I go out and show homes sometimes to buyers that they start looking at homes and it's not quite the fit that they're looking for, and then they think that they've got a little bit more room to work with and start moving up a little bit to find the right home for them, which is common, and I understand that.
Do you see that? I've always experienced real estate kind of as a tiered market. In other words, you don't go from 160 to 161 on a sale price and see an increase in value. But if you go from 160,000 to maybe 175,000 in a market, there might be a dramatic difference between those two homes. Is that accurate for what you're saying?
Oh, Alan, that's something I see all the time. We'll go, say, in a price range of 160, 170, like you're talking about, and we'll go through the 20 homes. And oftentimes I'm looking at my buyers and we're kind of chuckling, saying, hey, I don't know where they came up with this price. Because, you see the whole range from total disaster, just from smells, paints, destruction throughout the home, to just a perfect situation.
No kidding. Well, we'll come back after the break. We'll talk a little bit more about what you should look for as a buyer. We'll get into what you should be as a seller. If you want to join that conversation, 801-254-5855. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back to When Wall Streets Meet Main Street, the Friday Real Estate Edition. Here in studio, this is Alan Blood, your host, with Jeff Tomlinson, our resident real estate agent professional today. Welcome back again, Jeff.
You're welcome.
We were talking before the break about things that you could do as a buyer to make sure you're getting a good deal. And during the break, we had a little conversation that we'll extend here into the show about short sales and how that applies. So one note I want to make, we have got to give away today some passes to the Utah State Fair. So we've got a pass of 4 and a pass for 4 and a pass for 2. So if you would like to get an opportunity to have those tickets, call in. And whoever calls in with the best question for Jeff, call in with the stumper for Jeff, and we'll give you those passes. Those passes, I'm being told by Stephanie, are $12 a pop. So that's a pretty good deal for free. So call in, give us your best stumper question for real estate.
That shouldn't be hard.
And get some tickets for the Utah State Fair today at 801-254-5855. Let's hear what you've got to say about real estate. So when you're buying a home, looking in the market, what should you be looking for?
There's several things that we consider. First off, when we're meeting with the buyer, we're going to sit down and do a consultation with them, kind of get a feel what's their thoughts. There's no sense in wasting a lot of time going over some just ambiguous information. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. So we're going to look at some value is probably one of the most important things, right? Where's values? Because everybody's wanting to get the good deal.
Sure.
And a lot of assumption goes into that as far as, okay, good deal means foreclosures, short sales, REOs.
Got to be buying a short sale or foreclosure if you're going to get a good deal.
Absolutely. And that's not necessarily true. There are some good deals in those areas for sure. But, collectively, you got to look at all the information, the location, the price, the per square foot.
Is it a good deal for you? Is it a good deal for that location?
Is it a good fit, right? Don't jump in it just because you think the dollar value's there. If it doesn't meet your long-term goals, why are you doing that?
Yeah, I hear that a lot. Well, we're buying it for $180 and it's going to appraise for $210, so we're buying equity. Not really. You're buying it for $180. It's worth $180 the day you buy it, and maybe there will be some other value tomorrow, but don't buy it for that reason.
Right. And then as we go through and look at the homes, you're going to start feeling the impressions and ideas that this is the right fit, makes sense, because out of the 10 homes that I've seen, this is definitely the right one for me for all the right reasons. And then when we go to put the offer on the home, we're going to do more or less a CMA on it. We're going to find out where that home's been, where it's going, and is it a good fit for you.
Okay. Hey, well, we've got a great question here on line 2. We're going to hear from Rich and Draper. Hey, Rich. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. The question I had for you was, I was considering going back into flipping real estate, and I wanted to know your opinion on whether it's good timing and if there's any units out there that you're seeing that are becoming available.
Boy, that's a good question. I'll tell you, that has got about 19 different answers, but it's a great question. Jeff, what's your take on that? Flipping homes right now, good or bad?
It's just amazing right now. I've got actually 3 investors that I'm working with because it is a great environment for flipping homes. Let me tell you why. Prices are down, right? If you got to look at some loan aspects on it, loans are good as well. And another thing, too, is that people are walking away from their homes. Where are they going to go? And if you technically are the individuals flipping it, you can offer them lease options, seller financing, and those kind of things to provide an opportunity for these people who need a place to stay. And, you know, if you want a list of homes that are out there, let's get together, and I can send them to you, and you can look at them.
Yeah, so we've got some opportunity. I'll tell you my opinion on that. Jeff, tell me your thoughts here. It seems like if you're going to make money flipping, you've got to have substantial resources up front so you can buy those good deals, maybe using cash if you've got it, or have enough money to get really good financing on that initial purchase to make it make sense when you're selling it and get money out of it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and you need to have your ducks in a row. You need to know where your financing's coming from.
Got to have your financing really squared away.
Yeah.
And then you've got to be patient to find the deal that makes sense, not only to buy, but to buy, rehab, and flip.
And you got to be ready to pull the trigger. I've got an investor that I told him about a property. It was just $30 a square foot, which is super low.
Wow.
I seen it come on the market. I called him. I says, let's go over and look at this now. He said, I'll get to it tomorrow. Guess what? You didn't
Not
get
happening.
it.
So you got to be a fast mover. Now, Rich, you're calling us from Draper. Jeff tells us Draper, Salt Lake, an area you would look for flipping. Do you need to go look further north, further south? What geographically would you think about as an area that you would even consider getting into that market?
You know, geographically, there's a lot of great places throughout the valley. I've seen a lot of great deals out there as we're showing them to buyers. I'm thinking in the back of my head, I'm going to make a note here and get this over to one of my investors to have them look at it. So it's across the board, you know, and the best thing to do is find out what you're comfortable with, the amount of risk that you're willing to take, and then let's put together a program based upon that, and that's what's working for my guys that I'm doing these flips with.
Excellent. Hey, well, Rich, thanks for your call. That was a great question. You want to go to the state fair?
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to put you back on hold, and Stephanie's going to have a chat with you. Thanks for your call. It was a great question.
Thank you.
Okay. We've got another great caller coming in here on line 3. Let's hear about Rob. Tell us your question.
Yeah, I'm wondering about mining claims with patented mining claims. Does that give you authorization to do whatever you want on that property, and the federal government or state governments have no jurisdiction?
So meaning you've got a property with a patented mining claim. What rights do you have? What rights does the federal government have?
Well, I mean, the mining claim has water rights issued with the mining claim. It's a patented mining claim, and now they're telling me that the water rights do not belong to the mining claim anymore.
So that the water rights don't convey with the mining claim, that the mining claim is unique. I'll tell you what, that is a highly complex, and that's a stumper. I think that qualifies as a stumper question, Jeff.
Yeah, and I've seen some of those. You've got to kind of dig into how it's all written up and go through all your resources and find out what are the conditions to those from my development experience in the past.
And I've seen those as well where those are split and separate, where they're not split or separate, and it just depends entirely on what the conditions were of the original claim and what changes might have happened statutorily and legislatively that would have impacted that claim from when it was initially issued.
EPA issues as well.
Might be some EPA issues. And so,
yeah, but I was just under the understanding, I doing some research, that patented mining claims, nothing can be changed on them.
And I'll tell you, they're in this world of real estate, in this world of uncertainty, the one thing I have learned is there are no absolutes. So it could very well be that other federal regulatory changes that could have impacted anything. I mean, really nothing is out of bounds right now. And so here's the advice that I would give on that one. Depending on what the value of that claim is, and water rights clearly have a significant value in today's economy, that's something where I think you're going to want to bring in a little bit more expertise. You're probably going to want to sit down with all of your documentation, go to a real estate professional, a real estate attorney, and have that conversation with them and say, here's what I've got, what are your thoughts? And it's probably worth a couple $100 from you to have an hour of their time to give you their opinion, because I think in every situation there's always a permutation, there's always something different, and really I don't think anything's off the table as far as the realm of possibility right now.
Right, and there might be some additional permits that you're going to need, which could cost you substantial to get those kind of things going for you.
Yeah, so there could be a way to get around the issues that you're running into or the question that you've got. I'm assuming you've got a specific mining claim in question.
Yeah, I do. It's a patented mining claim, an early number. It's a very early number, so it's got seniority in the area.
Okay. Yeah. So I would look into that. There might have been some changes that would have impacted that if it's been conveyed from one person to the next, which clearly it has. There may well indeed have been some adjustments there that would impact that, but I think it's definitely worth, because the value that's probably involved with that, getting a good professional real estate attorney to give you their opinion on what they think you ought to do. And it's not going to be just your average guy who does trust and estate that you're going to want to talk to. You're probably going to have to spend a few bucks to get somebody who really has an expertise in natural resources and land rights and land use. Fortunately here in Utah, we've got a great group of people who do that. There's several law firms that have kind of made that a focus. But it's going to cost you a few bucks to get those answers. I think it's worth spending them, though, based on what you're telling me.
Yeah, it's from 1892, and the whole mining claim is we got the whole claim. It's patented, and we got the mineral rights and the surface rights. And
well, that's a good one. Yeah, I'd definitely pursue that more formally with an attorney's opinion. Hey, well, Ted,
right.
Thanks for your question, Rob. Do you want to go to the state fair?
You betcha.
Okay, I'm going to put you on hold. All right, well, that was two good back-to-back questions. That second one was a stumper. I haven't had that one for a while.
Me neither. A long time.
But, stuff like that where you've got a real unique situation and you've got some money on the line, that's definitely a place to get a little bit more professional expertise in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think people sometimes think I can do it kind of mentality, and you can get yourself upside down and look at it.
A lot of trouble.
Really fast.
A lot of trouble when it comes to things that are more complex like that.
Yeah.
Well, and the flipping question was a good one, too. I like that idea. And I'll tell you, I really do not think flipping is for most people. I think for most people, flipping is a terrible idea. I think you've got to be very well funded. You've got to have the skill set yourself to do the renovations or repairs. You got to know what you're looking for, which probably is going to be a home that's going to be pretty distressed.
Yeah, you got to understand where you're coming at. There's a lot of these shows on TV that these people go in there, and they're just showing phenomenal numbers. That's TV.
Yeah, I'd be real conservative. If you like that idea and you can make 5 or 7% profit, that's a home run in my opinion.
It is, and I find some investors that are just new at this will try to get in and look for huge numbers, 40, 50,000 on a flip. Realistically, that just doesn't happen very often. You need to consult somebody with all this, your resources, what you can and can't do, what you do and don't know, and then look at the whole picture. It's exciting, but at the same time, get your ducks in a row before you go forward.
Absolutely. Excellent. Well, Jeff, so we've talked a little bit about buyers, what you should be looking for. What about sellers? You've got a home and you want to sell. Right now, what I'm seeing is about 40% of the market is short sales, bank sales. So if you own a home and you're trying to sell it, 40% of your competition is short sales, bank sales. So what kind of advice would you give to somebody thinking about selling a home in today's market?
That is such a common thing anymore. It used to be only about 5%, and Alan, I've seen as high as 60% in some areas. So if you're a seller, how do I compete? What you got to do is understand where you're at financially. What you need to get out of the home. I think sometimes some of the sellers that I'm dealing with have maybe a little bit unrealistic expectations of what they can do, and what they need. And so I talk to them and say, listen, let's don't overprice this home, right? I think that's the number one issue that people
Come in
face.
on a real price that you really expect to sell.
Yeah, and that's through the CMA thing once again. You're not going to sit down and go over where the market currently is for your home. Find out what it is, and don't try to chase the market, because I find a lot of sellers in the past that I've worked with who chase the market, meaning as the market continues to go down.
They keep dropping a little bit, and it's death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
All right, well, if you'd like to get that CMA that Jeff is offering, call in, ask Stephanie for give Stephanie your information, 801-254-5855. We'll come back after the break, talk a little bit more about things you ought to be looking at if you're going to try and sell in this crazy real estate market right now. Wall Street meets Main Street. We'll see you back. Welcome back to When Wall Street Meets Main Street. This is Alan Blood hosting today, the real estate edition on Fridays. I'm here in the studio with Jeff Tomlinson, a real estate professional from Equity Real Estate. Jeff, again, glad to have you here. Jeff is offering today to all of our listeners a free CMA, which will give you a very good professional view of what your home value is without you spending a dime, give you some great information. If you'd like to get that from Jeff, call into the studio and ask, give Stephanie your information, 801-25855, and he'll get back to you. Jeff, if somebody would like to reach you directly, what's the number they could reach you at?
The best number to get a hold of me is my cell phone, 801-643-4334, and I'll answer it.
Great. Yeah,
Ask my wife.
Jeff answers his cell phone. Isn't that great in our world? You got to answer those dang electronic leashes. So let's talk a little bit more. We were talking about what a seller ought to be thinking about. You're trying to sell a house in the market today. The advice you gave first off was not to chase the market. In other words, don't price your home high and then slowly drop it down. What are you seeing in that respect?
That's the biggest challenge. I think sellers, maybe the reality check, right? They go off a couple of years' numbers, maybe past appraisals and things like that, and are saying, well, that's maybe where my pricing's at. Well, that's not necessarily true by any means. I don't go over 6 months maximum as far as pricing values, nor do appraisers.
Meaning potential buyers' information. They want to see if they're qualified. What I'm finding in the for sale by owner market right now is that, without exception, in my experience in the last 60 days, those folks who are writing offers on for sale by owner homes are people who are looking for a lease to own, or they're looking for some kind of a seller financing deal. They went to some real estate guru seminar where they told them that if they, will go out and find these for sale by owner homes, that they'll get a distressed seller and they'll get 100%, seller carried financing. And so they're coming in with no credit, no income, no ability to get qualified, and basically just taking a lot of time walking through people's homes. It seems to me like the more serious buyers are actively working with an agent, or at least they're shopping from the MLS. Is that, and I know that your biases as an agent. What's your thoughts on that?
I think that's so true, especially in our market now, because, so many people have credit issues. And they're struggling, and so they're looking for some alternatives to the traditional
and that's
financing.
Okay.
It is. It's totally understandable, and we can deal with that. But really, are they an expert, the buyer and or the seller, about writing up these kind of contracts? What kind of issues are they getting into if they don't find the right solutions for them? So they need to be careful about
be really
that.
well educated,
Yeah.
and that's been my experience. What kind of advice would you give to a seller when they're getting offers for that type of seller carried financing, or they're coming in saying we want something a little bit outside of the box? Where do you go with that?
Well, basically, you're going to want to look at their ability to perform, right, through income statements, some credit reporting kind of information, if they have some past history maybe, to look at those kind of things, because you want to do your due diligence.
It's a lot more complex than you'd think.
Oh, yeah, a lot more. Like you said, Alan, those seminars, they offer a lot of fluff. They're there to make some money. You need to be aware of what you're dealing with.
My experience with seller carried financing from a seller's perspective is that it is usually a terrible idea.
Yeah,
Usually it's a really good way to create a long-term nightmare for yourself.
I too. I've seen only about 20% of those perform.
Yeah, I think that's about what I've seen. A real low number. And lease options are about the same.
Yeah.
When you sell the home on an option, you're basically just renting the home, and you're going to have to step back in and redeem that property and then deal with all the rehab you'll have to do to fix it back up again.
You're right, and they better have a good chunk of change to offset maybe some repairs and other things and legal issues if they run to those as well. Make sure you get that down.
That's a tricky field to navigate, and I'd recommend first of all against that. But just knowing right now in that market, that makes it really tough to not have the home listed by an agent, in my opinion. And I'm not an agent, and I'll tell you, I think I've told you personally, I'm not a big fan of most real estate agents. I think most real estate agents really don't do a very great job. But if they can get a good professional agent to list the home, my experience has been that's typically better off.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. Contrary to a lot of people think that an agent just goes out
Put
there.
Put up a sign and collect a check. That's it.
Yeah,
right?
I wish it was that simple.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Oh, yeah, I'd have a lot more time, because this is more than a full-time job.
Yeah, it can be. So, on that note, when you're talking to somebody who's looking to sell the home, what kind of questions should people be asking you? What would you recommend somebody be asking a person who they're thinking of listing their home with?
You're going to want to find out, basically, their knowledge of the area. Maybe how many homes that they sold. You want to find out what kind of resources that they're going to have versus what the homeowner's going to have. What kind of negotiation skills that they have. There's a myriad of questions that I could, if you want, I'll send them to you too.
Great. So, if you'd like to kind of hear Jeff's behind the scenes, what questions should you ask an agent? Again, call in, give Stephanie your information, 801-254-5855, and he'll get that back to you. So as far as getting a home ready to sell, I hear a lot about staging a home and getting a home prepared. I often get questions from people saying, well, we're going to get the home ready to sell. We want to sell the home, but we've got to do all these repairs first. What kind of things would you recommend people do and don't do when they're prepping a home to sell?
That's one of the most important things I think we all need to look at from a seller's perspective, because really we're looking at it from a buyer, right? The buyer's got to come in and say, this is a home I want. And why are they going to do that? It's because they're going to have that appeal that they're looking for. I always say to the sellers is that let's make your home kind of like a model home. You walk in there, it feels inviting, warm, comfortable. And if the home isn't in that kind of condition, then you don't have a very good chance of selling it. If you do, it's going to be a discounted offer or even an investor offer, because they see an opportunity there to come and lowball you and take advantage of you.
You got a lot of clutter around. You got, green shag carpet.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do to your home. I mean, let's look at a home in general.
What kind of inexpensive stuff can you do that's going to get a home to sell in a better price or in a better time frame?
Let's start from the outside first, Alan. Let's look at the exterior. Is your lawn mowed? Is it taken care of? Are the weeds gone? Is the soffit and fascia in place? Is it needing painting prep? Any of those kind of things. Because if somebody drives up, as I've done with buyers, and they look at the home and it doesn't have that appearance, let's go to the next one.
The yard's a disaster, and there's a bunch of chipped and peeling paint on the
You're right.
the door,
Yep.
the door frame.
Yep, because as I'm opening up the door, the buyers are looking around and doing analysis of the home. If it's in good shape, they're looking for reasons to buy the home rather than reasons not to like it. And so as you go into the home, you can look at each room. I would look at the walls. Do they need to be painting? Paint's cheap, right?
Gotcha.
But make sure you know what you're doing on the painting because you can
Just
make it worse.
because you like lime green doesn't necessarily mean anybody else will.
Yeah, and you need to get with an expert on colors. I can give you some recommendations, and so can some of your local hardware stores as well. What's common. Don't get too crazy on the colors because that can be a turn
Trying
off.
to sell home, keep it kind of neutral. If you are going to paint or do carpet, go
Right.
neutral.
Yeah, and for a lot of opportunities there on the carpet, you can clean them. Get that, maybe pull out smells that exist there, remove unnecessary items that are in the
A lot
home.
less expensive to clean than replace carpet.
Well, it's a value perception again, right? Do I got to come in and replace the carpet? What are the issues I got to deal with? Because buyers right now have a lot of choices on the market.
Sure. Well, and if you're competing with bank sales and short sales, and your home's not in pretty pristine shape, people are going to expect to pay a short sale price.
Absolutely.
And they're probably going to expect that anyway, aren't they? I mean, really, if they're competing, if they're looking at 5 houses, and 2 of those are short sales, and those are the low-priced homes, is that where you're going to see buyers tend to gravitate?
Yeah, that is. And another thing, I want to make sure that people understand is on the short sales and foreclosures that they see this price. That is not a guaranteed price.
Yeah, that's the low ball. Do you want to give me an offer price?
Yeah,
Start
because
the ball rolling price.
Right, because if the bank hasn't approved that through their BPO, then you're throwing out there an anticipation of getting it for that. You could be wasting a lot of time. So if you're working with an agent, make
sure
sure
you got to
that
get really educated on what those short sales really mean and what that price really means when you see it listed.
Yeah, and the timelines you're dealing with. Are you foregoing some other opportunities by waiting on one home here?
I have had many, many clients in the last year who have written a short sale offer and then sat on it for 9 months to not have it close.
Yep. That's been my experience, too. In fact, I've had people who have written offers, full price offers, on short sales so now it's not a short sale technically, and watch the bank turn it into a foreclosure.
Just drag on and drag on.
Yeah,
so you got to really
have
have the right person giving you advice on that. And I'll
That's
tell you,
right.
Jeff is a good person to have giving you advice, in my opinion. So if you'd like to talk with him, have him give you a CMA on your home again, call in 801-254-5855. And give Stephanie your information. Or Jeff, again, if they want to call you directly?
It's 801-643-4334.
Excellent. And do that. I think it'll be worth your while if you want to get a CMA, so a free valuation of your home with no obligation, right?
No obligation
Great.
whatsoever. Or any real estate questions in general. I'm more than willing to give you my information. Right.
Well, thanks, Jeff. That's a great resource. That's a good resource for our listeners. So what are the mistakes you see sellers make when they're prepping a home for sale? What things do you see people do that you would advise them against?
I think that anytime you're tackling something that you don't feel very competent in, don't do it.
So, for example?
Maybe tile.
Okay.
Hardwood floors. You go in there, you see a lot of miscuts, a lot of misfitting. What does that mean to a buyer? I've got to go and replace this.
So you went in and redid the tile or redid the hardwood floors thinking, hey, I'm going to really dress up the home. Or we talked about flipping. I see this happen on the flipping side. Somebody buys a home and they go in and they put in new hardwood floors or pergo floors or they redo the tile, but they didn't know what they were doing.
Right. And the perception is it changes for price points. The higher price homes, you're going to have higher expectations than the lower price.
Excellent. Well, that's great advice, Jeff. We'll be back after the break. We'll wrap up and talk just a little bit more about a couple good areas to invest and your final parting words. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back to When Wall Street Meets Main Street, the Friday Real Estate Edition. This is Alan Blood, your host, here in the studio with Jeff Tomlinson, an active K-Talk listener and real estate professional who was kind enough to join me today to talk about real estate. We've had a great discussion about buyers and sellers, things you ought to do. One good question that came in a little while ago off the air was, how do you know what a good area is to invest in? What kind of research could you do? And, Jeff, you brought some really interesting graphs showing where real estate prices are now versus where they were in 2006, so
That's
5
correct.
years ago. And the astounding thing to me was that we are pretty even with the number of homes listed, with the average median sale price, even to a little bit up, on pretty much any measure of real estate from now 5 years ago. You'd think in a typical 5-year period there would be some increase, but over the last 5 years to be even, that's not terrible. I was surprised that wasn't as terrible as I thought it was.
Yeah, that's surprising. We look at the number of homes that are listed, the number of homes that sold, and really the biggest variable is price. We kind of started out in 06 where we're at now in a lot of areas, Weber, Davis, Salt Lake, and Utah counties.
So we've kind of reverted back 5 years. If you bought 10 years ago, you're still pretty good as far as selling. So if you're looking for an area to invest, you've got a lot of great research that you can provide from the MLS. What kind of research would you recommend somebody be getting if they want to go and look for an area where they could buy a rental property or buy an investment? That's
a good question. What I would look at is we want to look at how the area's performed, and we look at that on a individual home basis. We're going to find the criteria of that home and compare it how that home has done over the last 5 years and probably where it's going to go. We're going to look at the area itself, physically visit it, and are the homes in good condition? Are they duressed? Are there a lot of renters there? And you can tell.
Is it upwardly mobile? Is it
Absolutely.
Is it going in the wrong direction? Just because it's a good price today might just mean that today's good price is, not realistic for tomorrow's value, and so
That's
figuring
true.
out what direction is the market going. The unique thing here in Utah is the only place they can get that data really is from a real estate agent with access to the MLS.
Yeah.
There's no public record that will tell you that data.
No, there's not. And like I say, like we talked about before, just beware getting on there and get some false data because you don't want to run. I mean, that's a huge amount of money somebody could throw in $2,000 to $3,000 into a home from an investor or buyer standpoint. Make sure you're making the right decision.
No kidding. And make sure that you're getting good advice. And that's one thing that I think this show has talked about a lot, and Adam's talked about it, I've talked about it. Get a good local service provider, somebody whose opinion and value you can trust up front. If you feel like the person you're working with isn't somebody that you can trust what they're telling you, if you feel like they're giving you truthiness, not truth, it's time to change service providers. When it comes to real estate, tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars spent, and if you do it with the wrong advice, you're not spending it right.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's easy just to take a word-of-mouth thing, but I always pull data. And I like to tell everybody, I'm not a salesperson, I'm a consultant. I'm going to give you as much information and let you make the decision. I don't want to sway anybody either way. It's up to them to make that choice. And if they can be more informed in doing so, then I've done my job.
Absolutely. Well, and the first place to get informed if you own a home is to get a CMA done, get that market analysis done to tell you what the value of your home really is, not what your neighbor's home was or what you thought it was. And I hear this a lot. Well, we had a great home sell right next door, and it sold for X amount 4 years ago. That's nice. And I just don't mean to be rude, but it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter one bit. So if you'd like to find out what the value of your home is, have Jeff give you a free market analysis. Call in to the station, 801-254-5855, or Jeff, call you directly at
801-643-4334.
Okay, that's great. And if you'd like to know more about the financing, if you want to find out if you can refinance or if there's options for you, please call me. Again, call the station or call me at 801-298-5887. So, Jeff, what final parting words would you give to our good listeners today about their real estate buying, selling, or investing?
One thing I would say that we probably haven't touched enough on is loan modification programs, Alan.
Yeah.
You hear a lot of things. I'm in a loan modification or a short sale situation. Beware. Just beware of that because if you miss a payment and anybody tells you to miss a payment or go short on it, you're done.
Yeah. Well, first of all, if you're a mortgage professional in the state of Utah and you give someone advice saying you should miss a payment, you've broken the law.
Pretty much.
And that advice is given out a lot incorrectly. It's terrible advice. In my opinion, unless you're ready to walk away from the home and your options are modify or foreclosure, and you're okay that the end result of trying to modify a loan could be foreclosure, don't miss a payment.
Absolutely. And I hear all the time from sellers say, I tried to call the bank, they just give me a runaround, they're not answering my questions, and this goes on for 1 or 2 years. Well, then they're in a situation that they can't buy a home. They're going to be looking at a rental. They've lost that privilege.
Their ability completely.
Absolutely.
Well, and if you do go through a short sale, and I've had this conversation often with individuals, where they say, well, we had a short sale a year ago. And through the conversation, I'll say, okay, well, because of the foreclosure. Oh, no, it wasn't a foreclosure. It was a short sale. And I understand there's a difference. But from a credit perspective, there's not. Short sale foreclosure, when it comes to your credit and when it comes to your ability to get financing in the future, it's the same thing. And so before you go down the road of seeking modification or pursuing short sale, you really need to look at it and say, and now what's next?
Yeah.
If I'm okay with being a renter for the next 4 or 5 years, that's okay, and there's nothing wrong with being a renter, and it might be the exact right decision for many people, unfortunately, to get out of owning a home for a little while.
Yeah.
And that's okay, but just know that that's what you're putting yourself into.
Right, and just understand the fact that make sure you take care of it. Because some people say, well, if it's the same thing, then I'm going to walk and
I'll
let it
just
foreclose.
let it go to foreclosure.
And that's not the issue, because there's a deficiency that could be outstanding against you if you don't take care of it correctly. And then 6 years down the road where you're ready to jump back into it, that lender has the ability to come back after you.
You still got some potential deficiency. And so before you go down that road again, you got to get good advice from a qualified professional. What are my alternatives, and what does this mean for me if I choose option A or B, if I go foreclosure, if I go to a short sale, if I pursue a modification? What does this really mean to me in my long-term financial future?
Yeah, and just because you involve an attorney into something, that doesn't guarantee you anything.
Doesn't mean anything, right?
Yeah, please don't think that it does.
Doesn't mean anything. It's a good place to start and get advice, but make sure you get advice, first of all, from someone who knows what they're talking about.
And they can't stop it. I mean, they can say they can put a halt to it, but inevitably that's going to come to a foreclosure situation. So just be careful of that.
Be careful of that. That's great advice. Be really wary. Be well educated. Get well informed before you start making any big decisions with your money or your real estate. Excellent. Well, hey, Jeff, I really appreciate you being in here today. I hope that that the advice that you've shared has been listened to, because I think it's been great. If you'd like to speak with Jeff some more, call him again, 801-643-4334. If you want to find out about your real estate financing needs, call me, 801-298-5887. Stay tuned for Buy Back America. I'm sure we're going to hear some great words about last night's speech from Mr. Obama. Stay tuned.